Nation in Conversation, taking you on a journey through the South African countryside. Proudly sponsored by Monsanto, Nedbank and Senves, in association with Hinterland and NWK.
Hello and welcome to Nation in Conversation. We continue our journey through the South African countryside, focusing on produce unique to each area. We also look at the central role this industry plays in sustaining the local economy, especially through agriculture and tourism. In today's program, we focus on the picturesque town of Wellington, particularly the wine and whisky industries. This is what you can look forward to in today's show. In Homegrown, we visit the famous Dimmersfontein wine estate, as well as Bosman family vineyards. During our In Context segment, we visit another successful business in the area, the James Sedgwick Distillery. Chris Burgess from Landbouweekblad also joins us in studio. In our dialogue segment, Mpumelelo explores the current issues impacting on these industries with his guests from Vinpro.
Wellington, only 45 minutes from Cape Town International Airport, lies the so-called new heart of the Cape wine route, and with good reason. Not only can visitors enjoy world-class wine estates such as Dimmersfontein, Valvanpas and Dwilhof, but the region is becoming ever more popular for its whisky, table grapes and fruit. The Wellington region is also celebrated for its breathtaking flowers and scenery, surrounded by mountains, rivers and valleys, such as Bainskloof Pass, the Berg River and the Haverkwas Mountains. Add to that the popular Cape Dutch houses, music festivals, unique eateries and a classic museum like Oma Granny's house, and the Wellington region has a perfect recipe to entertain young and old. The Wellington region clearly offers a wide choice of attractions, but the core of the local economy remains the remarkable wine industry. We spoke to the mayor of the Drakensberg municipality, Conrad Poole, about the role of the wine industry and specifically the role of producers, as well as community development projects and the importance of tourism for the region.
Wellington do have these wonderful tourism attractions like your mountain bike routes, your wine routes, and then also your heritage attached to that, and then also your art and crafts and culture. And also Wellington is very popular for the wedding venues, and then also for these kind of a mixed use within the agriculture sector. The contribution of the wine industry is really essential to us as a municipality. It's crucial because they are a sector that provides jobs throughout the year. And that's why it's so vital that we have to unlock a way. How can we even improve in that kind of a sector? Because not only to maintain the jobs we have, but to increase and expand. Because it's the only way how we can fight poverty.
Did you know the Wellington region is responsible for approximately 85% of all vines in South Africa? Dimmersfontein is one of the most renowned brands in the Wellington area, and David Sonnenberg knows just how important this industry is to the community in terms of job creation and development, as well as tourism. We spent some time on their estate during the Gauteng Opera performance and explored their passion for art and music.
The Wellington area has got fantastic soils, and that came about because of our proximity to these granite-rich mountains. There's a lot of decomposed granite in this area, makes for wonderful fruit-driven wines, and historically it was the home of the stokkiesboerdery, right, which is where the rootstock of all table grapes and all wine grapes get propagated. We focus on pinotage. We're pretty famous for the so-called coffee chocolate pinotage, but we also have if you like, new oak barrel-driven top of the range, which we call Carpe Diem. And I'm happy to say those have all done pretty well in the marketplace. Dimasfontein is hosting the Gauteng Opera, and this is a wonderful organization that helps both professional singers and also a lot of student singers to present their works.
Gauteng Opera's tagline is opera for everyone. And the reason why it's opera for everyone is that because we really would like to make sure that the whole of South Africa and the world experiences opera, that it's not just pocketed into a certain group of people. And I think that as a nation, we really need to start embracing things like opera or any other theatre, really, to become part of the really remote part of South Africa, like Wellington, where they don't normally get theatre like this.
And we love the idea of both entertaining our customers and giving them a fun experience at Dimasfontein, as well as contributing to organisations that have a developmental focus. On Dimasfontein, we have a school, we have an empowerment company called Tokozani, and we like to do these things as part of being, I hope, enlightened employers, along with many others in the wine industry.
Sustainability is of paramount importance to the success of the wine industry. The story of Basson family vineyards is testimony to this. Petrus is the 8th generation on the farm. Their rich history is rooted in its people, the community, and of course, the art of winemaking.
Basson family vineyards is situated in Wellington. We grow a large variety of different grape varieties, and then we also have wonderful old vineyards that's been growing here in this region, Chenin Blanc, for more than 35 years. In 2008, we've embarked on what is still today the largest land reform transformation transaction in the wine industry, where 260 employees got ownership in land, vineyard land, and the business. Since then, we've grown fivefold. There's a feeling of true ownership, and we believe if you care about the people that do the work, they care about the work they do, and that improves the quality of our product.
I grew up on this farm, Lilyfontein, and I lived with my grandparents. And I started working as a general worker on the farm. And yeah, there are 2 families on the farm, the Bosmans and the Apollos families. I'm the 5th generation of the Apollos family. Since we started the Black Empowerment Project in 2008, we've seen there's a lot of a magnificent improvement in the life of our people itself. We started with almost like 20 people, and nowadays we have 500 people. I believe that this industry, farming, is one of the most job creations that we have in the Western Cape. I believe successful stories can get out of this relationship between the workers and the farmer.
One of the ways in which Basson family vineyards draws people to the area is through annual music festivals. Petrus tells us a bit more about the active role the wine industry plays in stimulating tourism in Wellington.
The wine industry can play a fundamental role in the development of tourism, as food and wine tourism is very popular and growing fast. I think by further develop new experiences and just do what we do a little bit better, will not only draw more tourists to South Africa, but also create a lot of jobs.
Did you know the R62 from Cape Town to Port Elizabeth is considered to be the longest wine route in the world, stretching over 850 kilometers?
It's clear that the Wellington region has a lot to offer, but the core of the local economy remains the thriving wine industry. It's wonderful to see how the workers in the wine industry are able to share in these successes through a number of inclusive models. After the break, we visit a whisky distillery and meet with Burgess from Landbouweekblad to get his views. Welcome back to Nation in Conversation. Remember to join the discussion on Twitter and Facebook and have your say. There is another thriving business in the heart of Wellington, the James Sedgwick Distillery, a must-see if you visit the area. Let's take a look.
A visit to Wellington will not be complete without a visit to the James Sedgwick Distillery, the oldest whisky distillery in Africa, founded in 1886.
Good day and welcome to the James Sedgwick Distillery here in the country town of Wellington. We're situated about 80 kilometers from Cape Town, and today you'll find yourself at the only commercial whisky distillery on the Africa continent. And what gives us this title is that we have close to 150,000 barrels currently in maturation. So here we are responsible for the making of the 3 ships fleet, as well as for Bain's Cape Mountain whisky. And the first 3 ships was launched in the South African market in 1977, and then Bain's became part of the fleet in 2009.
Did you know? Approximately 60% of a whisky's taste is determined by the wooden cask. Up to 5% of the volume gets absorbed into the cask and is referred to as the angel's share.
So next time you find yourself in a social occasion, I would like to invite you to try one of our South African styles, and proudly South African styles of whiskies. They are made by South Africans and they are made for the South African consumers out there. So, slanjava.
Wellington wine and whiskey. With me is Chris Burgess, editor of Landbouweekblad, here to share some of his insights. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you for having me.
Do South Africans enjoy drinking wine?
Well, we could enjoy it a lot more. We all have a national duty to be drinking more wine. I mean, for every 7 liters of beer that we drink 1 liter of wine. So yes, we should be drinking more wine.
Does the wine industry create many jobs?
Well, we've got about 3,200 farmers, and they create about 30,000 job opportunities. But if you look at the whole value chain, it creates about 300,000 job opportunities. You know, the wine industry every year invests about 39 million rand in social responsibility projects. And the interesting thing about the wine industry, for every 1 million rand invested, 5 jobs are created, while in the rest of the economy, for every million, only 3 jobs get created. So you know, it's really sort of a labor intensive industry.
If the wine industry has the capacity to create more jobs than average, how are the farmers doing?
Unfortunately, they're not doing all that well. The industry's got about a 2% return on investment. You know, as I said, 3,200 farmers, and 1 out of 3 are actually making a loss. And more vineyards are being taken out to make way for more profitable crops than are being planted. And I think the problem lies in 2 areas. You know, if you look at the farmer's share of a bottle of wine, so if you take a 40 rand bottle of wine, 750 ml, the supermarkets make 7.70 rand. The state, out of taxes and excises, make 6.60 rand, and the farmers make 46 cents. So I mean, that's where the problem lies. And then we've still got the problem with the export markets, where we're sort of stuck in a cheap and cherry bracket of about $5 a bottle. So everything is not quite where it should be in the wine industry.
The wine industry has also had a little bit of bad press recently. There was the strike at Robertson, and then a Danish documentary was made that alleged that the industry, some farms, were paying slave wages. Is this true?
You know, the media plays a very unfortunate role in all of this. I mean, you know, the media is, and I come out of the media, so I would know. You know, it sort of set in on sensation, and the bigger, more moderate picture is not something that they're particularly interested in. So the whole wine industry in South Africa is regulated by this voluntary organisation called VITA, the Wine and Agricultural Ethical Trade Association, which basically looks at wine being produced ethically, and that decent wages are being paid. I mean, if you look at the Robertson case in particular, I mean, they weren't farm workers, by the way. They were workers that were working further down this in the value chain. They were earning 3,000, I think it was 3,800 rand, which is above the minimum wage. The management was putting 4,400 rand on the table. The unions wanted 8,000. So I mean, those are the facts. Interestingly enough, the buyers that complained about the wages. I mean, if you look at the Swedish monopoly, Systembolaget, I mean, their gross profit margin is about 25 times that of wine farmers. So if they were paying our wine farmers more, I mean, there would be more money and more money to go around.
Thanks, Chris, for your great insight.
Thank you.
After the break, we join Mpumelelo in the studio to take the discussion forward with Vinpro.
Welcome to Nation in Conversation. Today we explore the opportunities and current challenges within the wine industry. Joining me is Rico Basson, Managing Director at Vinpro, and Unathi Mantshongo, who looks after the social development and training projects at Vinpro. Welcome to you, Nico and Unathi. Before we get into the details of the discussion, maybe you might first want to explain to me, Nico, what does Vinpro do? What is it about?
Vinpro is a service organization for the 3,300 grape producers and about 600 wineries. And we provide them with products, services, and also represent them on a number of forums, including engagements with government.
So it's basically a producer association. You look after the interest of the producers.
Absolutely.
And as far as the producers are concerned, what would you say is their view about the economy in general and their contribution thereof in the broader economy, beyond agriculture?
Look, the wine industry is a significant contributor to South Africa. It contributes about 36 billion rand. That's roughly 2% of South Africa's GDP, which is a significant amount. It employs 30,000 workers on farm, and for every one of those jobs, 10 other jobs in the value chain. So about 300,000 jobs in terms of its size, and it includes aspects such as wine tourism, which is a big segment of the industry.
So it's basically a big job creator. Where are these jobs largely concentrated in the country, would you say?
Look, if we look at the survey, it's a national distribution. Remember, a lot of our companies, while we produce the grapes in the Western Cape and the Northern Cape, has got different distribution centers, marketers. We sell the most wine in Gauteng of all the provinces. So a lot of those jobs and related industries are part of the national job creation.
Yeah, and what would you say at the moment is the challenges of the producers and the industry?
I think profitability is a big challenge. If we look at the annual survey that we do, we find that the average return is a mere 2% on investment. Now, obviously, there is a third that is doing well in the sense of making profits. Yeah. But there's also, at the other side of the spectrum, a third of producers that are finding it very tough and are in all likelihood uprooting vineyards. So the industry...
Would that be the major producers established, or is it the emerging ones that are battling?
I think it's a bit of both. It's not only people that struggle financially that uproot vineyards. It is also looking at investments where you find that something like citrus or pekka nuts has just got a higher income or return at the moment. But I do think it's important to look at this as a restructure of the industry, where it will shrink by about 10% in area, but grow into value. And when I say grow into value, it utilizes market access, it utilizes things like technology, as well as tourism.
I want to come back to those aspects and maybe look at the global competitiveness of our industry. But before I want to bring Unathi into the picture. When the industry battles and it's got all these kind of challenges, we've got thriving producers, but some, as Nico says, are battling. What then becomes your role where you are from a social development perspective?
We link in with the emerging farmers specifically. So you'll find that the newcomers in the industry aren't as well versed. They probably don't have as much capital to help them through the difficult times. So there's different support vehicles that are available for them from a financial perspective to a training perspective that we organize and we coordinate.
So you don't do the old-fashioned social development of, where you give people basically things for free. You're trying to get them to develop.
We're definitely trying to get people to develop. I think the notion of giving something to someone for free once they've already invested in an industry doesn't exist. If I'm an emerging producer and I've already invested and planted vineyards, getting training, for example, is not a freebie. It's necessary for my business to thrive. So we definitely still have those support vehicles, training at no cost, viticulture training, because it's quite a technical subject. And then we also look at supporting those farms from a social development aspect, because you find people who aren't traditionally farmers now farming and having to deal with those social aspects. So we assist with that.
How big a challenge is that? I mean, people who didn't grow up in a farming environment, never had family members who farmed before, and suddenly they're into farming. And how do you deal with those kind of challenges?
It's a very exciting environment, to be honest, because you're working with someone who's not as pessimistic, who's new, who's open to learning. So where people would think it's a massive challenge, you introduce something to someone and they actually use it because they don't think that they know better. So I think what we're finding is with these emerging farmers, they're more open to new technology and utilizing that. And so we assist them in doing that. So I think that for me is very exciting.
Do you feel that you're winning in your initiatives?
There are some that are definitely going to be the pioneers in terms of successful projects and grow in terms of volumes, but there are those others where you struggle and you've got different issues. So I think we're definitely going to get champions like any other industry, and it is a challenge, but it's certainly worth attempting.
Yeah. Nico, back to you. I mean, our industry is known for, to a certain extent, punching above its weight in international markets, always trying to get access to global markets, fighting with the best producers in the world. How do you ensure that the emerging producers, together with the established ones, remain globally competitive? Whenever there's a market space that opens up, we are able to capture it.
Yeah, look, I think South Africa as a category has a lot of work to do. We entered the market 21 years ago. Entered at a fairly low international price point and has since struggled to really grow into a higher price segment. Having said that, we've just had conclusion of the European agreement where we've got bigger tariff-free wine that can go into the EU. And that's the kind of thing which we really need DTI and our Department of Agriculture to assist us with. So it's not about being big or small. It's about having the right business model. And that's exactly the support that we as industry give these new entrants to assist them with, be that legal services or be that market access, making sure that, that they go to market.
A big thank you to Rico and Unathi from Vinpro. It's wonderful to know that we have a successful wine industry with great potential in South Africa. Next time you have a glass of wine, make it proudly South African. Until next week, goodbye.
Thank you, Mpumelelo. Join us next week as we visit the beautiful Ceres region and shed some light on the flourishing fruit industry. Until then, remember to exercise your right as consumer. Join the conversation as it affects us all. Goodbye.
Nation in Conversation, taking you on a journey through the South African countryside. Proudly sponsored by Monsanto, Nedbank and Senves. In association with Hinterland and NWK.